Morning, everybody. Welcome to Petra's Happy Place. Today, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the make-along that I would like to do. So if you're not interested in doing a make-along, if you're not planning on, or if you haven't bought this and you don't care to buy this and do this make-along, this video is probably not going to be for you, okay? So if you are interested in something that you would maybe, it's going to take us a while to get through. But if you're interested, stay along and see what it's all about, okay? I have got myself a little cup of coffee, keto with MCT. It's not keto coffee, it's just coffee with some MCT oil in it, because that's how I roll this morning. This is my second cup. So, let me get started by talking about the actual book. This is the book. It's called AustenTatious Crochet. And it can be found on Amazon. I believe there's a couple more used copies that are available. And in order to do this make-along, you will need to have this book, okay? Because I'm not going to do a tutorial. It's not for me to do a tutorial because I did not design this pattern, so I'm not going to do it. But I would like for us to learn together and make this together. So let me show you the pattern that I would like for us to do together. This is what it looks like, or part of it, okay? And let me see if there's another pic. There we go. Here's a full picture of it. Okay. So, yes, I'm just going to hold it like this because this is basically the pattern. All right. So, I wanted to tell you what I did in planning for this, okay? The pattern is written for anyone from sizes extra small to extra large. And I am not about to do the math to make that any different. Okay, so if you want to make this pattern, if you are an advanced crocheter, oh, for Pete's sake, just do it and, make it for yourself. But I'm not that good yet. I'm hoping to be at one point, but not yet. So what I did was, once I bought the book, now guys, this is really important, just for copyright and privacy issues and all that kind of good stuff. I'm not going to show it to you, but I printed it out. Okay, I bought the book, so I do have the book, but I did print it out so that I can write on it, because I do not feel comfortable writing in the book because I want to keep it as pretty as possible. Okay, and just a plug for the book. I don't get anything for it, okay? But it is so cool. If you like Jane Austen or any of the Jane Austen stories or the movies or the whatever, if you love it, just get it for that. It's so beautiful. It has a little bit of tidbits, has little quotes from Jane Austen, has quotes from the book, have interesting facts about when she was writing. Oh, it's just a really nice book. Okay, she does have, and this is Melissa Horozowski, and she has another book out. I believe she did it, and it's Ostentatious Knitting. So if you're a knitter, you can find that book. Anywho, let me get back to this. So I printed it out, and I have gone over the basic stitches, and I have looked at, the beginning of the pattern, and it looks to be very easy to follow. And it is one of these, it says, next row, next row, next row. It doesn't have a lot of, repeats. And I mean, it's very detailed is what I'm trying to say. It's very detailed. And but it is very easy to follow. It doesn't have a lot of extra words in it, which is very helpful, especially when you are a newer pattern follower. You don't want all those extra things in there to cloud your reading of the pattern. Okay, so what I did is the pattern is written using a certain yarn. Okay, now let me show you what yarn it is that they are recommending. Okay, they are they are recommending a size 3 crochet thread. Okay, so I have 2 different kinds of that thread. Let me find it. Oh boy. Okay, so I know it's in here. I don't know what's in here because I was going to show it to you. Well, this is one of them. Oh, here's the other one. This I picked up at Hobby Lobby. It is Artiste, okay? And it, you can barely see it because it's inside, but it is Artiste, and it had a ball band on it. I probably have it in here. So here it is. Let me show you. Crochet cotton, and oh, I'm sorry, this is a number 8. Okay, this is a number 8 crochet thread, okay? This one here is DMC, and I know I have the one for that too, and I don't know where it is, but the name of this yarn is Petra, P-E-T-R-A, my name. But that's the reason why I got it to begin with, but it is a number 3 weight cotton thread. Now, I want to show you the difference in the two. There is a difference. Okay. Now, the darker one, well, let me hold it a little closer together so you can see. Because it is important that you know what we're asking for. Because this pattern is not going to be for the faint of heart, and it is not going to be for those of you that do not like working with thin yarns. There is a marked difference in the size. It is the dark purple, which is the Artiste, is a size 8, and this one is the size 3. For those of you that are not familiar with cotton thread, in regular yarn, you know, like any other Red Heart, you know, all those kind of yarns, number 1 is considered the smallest. Number 7 is the largest. So it goes numerically from the smallest to the largest. Well, if you think about it, yeah, it's kind of like geometry and a number line. That thread is on the negative side. Okay, so the larger the number gets, the smaller it gets. So a 10 or 20 is going to be smaller than a 3. Okay, and then an 8 will be smaller than a 3. 10 is smaller than an 8. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully you'll understand. And I'm going like this, and it should be like that to you. So you can see if you put it on a number line, you'll understand. But what doesn't make sense is that the number 8 is supposed to be smaller than that number 3, and it's not. It's actually larger. So this Artiste is not going to be what you want for the project, because this is going to be too large, and I'll explain that in just a minute. So the pattern calls for a number 3 crochet thread, and it even wants you to get the mercerized cotton. Okay, and according to the pattern, you will need size 3 mercerized cotton, 150 yards per ball, and you'll need 8 of the ones in a color, and then you'll need, well, I say 8. That's for the extra small. Anywhere between 8 and 12. 12 is for the extra large of the color. And let me see if I can just put this part up so you can see. Maybe it'll focus. Hopefully it will focus and you can see what is required, okay? So again, if you're not comfortable using thread, if you've never used it before, you have problems with intricate lace work, this project is probably not going to be for you. And I'm going to go into detail about that here in just a second. So what I did is I printed a copy. Then for you guys, this is what I did. I went through and I took out of my cupboards all of the number 1 weights that I had in my stash. Then I went to Hobby Lobby and I picked up as many of the different kinds of number 1 thread that I could find that might be suitable for this project. Okay, remember, we're making a top, and this top is going to be worn right next to the skin. So I don't want to have anything 100% wool that might be scratchy. Now, superwash merino might be nice, but you don't want to have wool right, or yak right next to your skin, because it's probably not going to be comfortable. So let me show you some of the ones that I pulled out. Okay, now I know one of them here is a size 2. This one is a size 2. I did get some size 2s. And I also, to let you know, I did use a couple different size hooks because I did work up little swatches. Okay, so here we go. Let me find all the number 1s first. I use this Color Ideal from Hobby Lobby. It's the Yarn Bee, and it was merino wool, nylon, and acrylic. Okay, and that was a number 1 weight. Okay, I also used, obviously, I used that DMC. Now, I got this online from Lovecrafts. And let's see, what else number 1 did I use? That's a number 2. Okay, I used also number 1 was this Wool-like from Loops and Threads. That is a number 1, but this is 100% acrylic. Okay, 100% acrylic. I also used, what's this one? I think this is, I don't know if this is considered a number 1 or number 2. It says fine on the tag here. It says fine, but there's no number inside of that little box there. So it says fine. So I'm assuming it was a size 1, but I'm now thinking it's a size 2. Okay, so let me tell you all the number 2 weights that I used. I used this Yarn Bee Mimosa, and this is cotton rayon blend. I'm trying to keep them all separate so I can explain everything. I also use this Yarn Bee Yarntopia, and this is a 100% acrylic. Okay, so I am trying to use different fibers too. Okay, I tried this Rapology Hues, which is a cotton. Let me just double check. Cotton, 90 cotton, 10 polyester. Okay, and I made a little swatch with that. And the last thing I used for the super fine, or the fine, this is Yarn Bee Awesome Ombre. And this is a acrylic nylon wool blend. And it is a fuzzy yarn. You can see the fuzzies. Okay, so I tried all of those. Let me get out my notebook so I can tell you how they each worked up, because I made notes, okay? Hold on. Be right back. Thanks for waiting. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about was this artiste yarn, okay? I used a 2.0 hook on this yarn, and the swatch that I did 10 rows of half double crochet, and I started with, and that was the trickiest part. The trickiest part of the whole process is doing a beginning, a foundation half double crochet. That is the trickiest part when you're using small yarn. Well, with any yarn, it's hard, but this thread, it's very difficult. So it's tricky, not difficult, tricky. So each one I worked up 10 half double crochets across and 8 rows, okay, to try to get it as square as possible. Okay, so, and I'm giving you guys these measurements so that if you wanted to try something else, you can. But you'll have to do, like I said, you'll have to do the math if you want to try something else. This one worked up 2.5 inches by 2 5/8 of an inch. Okay, that's the artiste. Now this DMC thread, the 3-weight mercerized cotton, it worked up 2 inches by 2 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and that is using a 2.5 millimeter hook. Let's see here, what else? I used this Ideal. This was the other number 1 weight, and it worked up 2 1/8 by 2 1/4 using a 2.5 millimeter hook. Then I went to the Wool Like, which is this number 1 weight, and it also, just like the DMC, worked up 2 millimeter by 2 1/8, but I used a 3.0 hook. Okay, so I'm going to set this one aside because I want to talk about that one here in a second. Then I used the Mimosa, which is this one here. That one's a little bigger. It was 2.5 by 2 3/4. And then the Rapology Hues was 2 3/4 by 2 5/8. The Utopia, the Yarntopia was 2.5 by 2 3/4. And the Awesome Ombre was 2 3/8 by 2.5. Now, I used different size hooks for each of these. I was trying to obtain that gauge. So some of them I used a 2.0 hook, some of them I used a 2.5, some I used a 3, and others I used a 3.5 millimeter. Okay, that's a lot of numbers. I'm sorry that, you know, that's something when you start to make a project, something you have to consider. The reason I did only the 10 rows across is because the gauge calls for a 4-inch by 4-inch. Okay, so if I did 2 by 2, all I had to do was multiply it by 2. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense, because I didn't want to do a huge 4-inch. I know it sounds silly, but I didn't want to crochet 8 different times a 4 by 4-inch square. That's just, I didn't have the time to do that. So here is my end results. Okay, you ready? The best yarns to use for this particular project are going to be this one. This is that DMC thread using a 2 millimeter hook, or using the Wool Like with a 3.5 inch hook. All right. So just depending on what kind of look you want to go for in your project, in your top, okay? You can either, if you're more comfortable using a little bit larger of a hook, which is a 3.5 millimeter, I would go with the slim, the wool-like, okay? If you're okay using a 2 millimeter hook, go with the cotton 3 thread. Okay. Now, my opinion, this is just my opinion, you guys, okay? The cotton thread, this mercerized cotton thread, the stitches will be so much more defined, okay? They will be so defined. It works up really lovely, but it has a little bit more of a tighter weave, okay? It doesn't have as much drape as this wool-like, the acrylic yarn, okay? So the acrylic will have more of an open weave, but it will be, you know, it's acrylic. This one is the cotton. Obviously, these are going to be more expensive than the acrylic. So, I hope that helps a little bit in trying to figure out what yarn to use. Now, I will say, again, if you are an advanced crocheter and you want to tackle this project and you want to use something else, this Yarntopia is amazing to work with. I love the feel of this acrylic, okay? It's beautiful to work with. And again, that's Yarntopia by Yarn Bee. It is a number 2. And when I was working it up into a swatch, it was a little bit larger of a swatch. I used a 3.5 millimeter hook. Perhaps if you used a 2.5 millimeter or a 3, you might obtain gauge with that Yarntopia. It was a delight to work with. However, it was a little splitty. It was a little bit splitty, especially during that first foundation row. Okay, just a little quick yarn review. I love this Yarn Bee Color Ideal. For having wool in it, it is very soft, but it would make not a small, I would not use the recommended hook size. I would size up on your hook and make this more of a drapey over top, you know, like a sweater, or even a loose fitting sweater with maybe a Henley underneath it. That would be amazing. Amazing yarn. I loved working with that, by the way. This Mimosa is the cotton rayon blend. It is just an average yarn, okay? This, however, I thought that this was going to be nice and beautiful. This is the Awesome Ombre by Yarn Bee. This was beautiful worked up, again, using a larger hook. It would work up really beautiful, but it is a bear to frog. It is a bear to frog. I just had a little 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, and it took me a good little bit to frog it, and it's because of all those little fibers. Now, maybe if you used a larger hook and the weave was a little larger, maybe it wouldn't be so difficult to frog, but I do not recommend this kind of yarn for beginning crocheters. It will drive you mad. I'm just saying, just being honest with you. Okay, so back to the project, okay? we're not going to start this for a while because I want to give you all plenty of time to get the book in, to decide if that's something that you would like to do. And I also want to give you enough time to choose your yarn. Now, that being said, if you've watched any of Jeannie from On the Hook Crochet, excuse me, I need to take a sip of my coffee. Jeannie from On the Hook Crochet has these wonderful, wonderful outlines for her patterns, okay? Now, if you want to take the basics of this, if you buy the book and you want to take the basic pattern and make something, if you're again, this would be more of an intermediate, not necessarily advanced, but an intermediate. If you would like to take that project but do it on your own, I have worked up right here using, I love this cotton from Hobby Lobby. I used the, I just used a 5, it's recommended 5 millimeter, because 5.5 because it's cotton, but this is a little bit big for me. But it stretches. Y'all remember that it stretches. But I crocheted up, half double crochet, a little swatch here, just several rows. And it is very drapey, and it would make a nice project. But as you can see, it is not like a solid fabric. I would not feel comfortable wearing something like this in the winter time without something underneath it. So if you wanted to use a larger cotton yarn and you were willing to follow some kind of a basic, if you know how to wing it, some of you know what I'm talking about, okay? If you want to try to wing it, this would be a great project for you. Use a different yarn. Let me know in the comment section or in an email if that's something that you're going to try to do. But that is what it looks like worked up in the half double crochet. All right. And like I said, it's very, very drapey. I would recommend, though, this is even a half size smaller. I would go to a 4.5, if not a 4 millimeter crochet hook. And when you measure it out, make sure that you allow for a little bit of stretch when you're thinking about it, because since it is cotton, it will stretch as you're working it, and it will stretch when you wash it. So, I don't know if you guys know that, but cotton will stretch. I know when you think about buying cotton at the store, like a cotton t-shirt, it shrinks. But for me anyway, when you have a handmade item and you wash it and you lay it flat to dry, it actually gets a little bit bigger. So, this is like, it started at 18 and it's probably stretched out to 24, 25 inches. So, keep that in mind. That was a lot, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Like I said at the beginning, I know this is not for everybody. This project is not going to have like 50 people wanting to do this project. This is definitely going to be for the more intermediate, but I do want to assure you, if you are a newer crocheter and you've been crocheting for a little while and you feel slightly confident and you know how to do a half double crochet, we can do this together. We will do this together. Take your time. It's going to be a make-along, so there is absolutely no rush to get this done. You do it on your own schedule. You do it as fast or slow as you want to do it. We're just going to be doing it together on certain days of the week, so that if you have questions, you can ask them. You can show us your work. We're going to be doing Zooms, and that's how we're going to meet together so that we could discuss the projects. Okay, so in the comment section below, what I would like for you to do is let me know, number one, if you are interested in doing this, please say yes. If you are getting the book or you're waiting for the book, please let me know. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that I can kind of gauge when we can start the actual make-along. Second thing, if you know what yarn you want to use, or if you have questions about the yarn, please leave that in the comment section below too. I plan on here in the next week, I plan on going through the pattern once more, and I'm hoping to work up a small sample of the actual product. And I'm trying to see, I know I actually started it using a different yarn, and I don't know what I've done with it. I'm using a yarn, let me see here. No, I thought I had it hanging, but I don't know what I've done with it. But what I'm using a wool yarn. I'm using a wool yarn for it, and I'm anxious to see how it turns out. I know I have it around here somewhere. I just don't know where I've placed it. I've got a mess going on here. Doing research and all that kind of stuff, it takes up a lot of room. More than I'm used to dealing with. Okay, I've gone on way long enough. So I hope you guys have a great day. And again, I'm so excited about this. And don't forget, we're not doing this right now, okay? We're probably not going to start this until later in October, possibly in November. And we are not going to rush through this at all. So even if you've got tons of other things that you're working on, and you're saying, I want to do this, but I don't have time right now, that's fine. Just let me know in the comment section that you're interested, just so we can kind of gauge when we might start this, okay? So you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you on the other side. Bye.